Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the wild ride of Jujutsu Kaisen. Because unfortunately, old Six Eyes did not see that coming. I'm Bryan, your host today, your kooky crazy girl, and I am joined by my esteemed colleagues, Emily and Hannah.
W- Well, hello. I am esteemed colleague number one. Uh, Hi, guys. It's Emily. I'm happy to be here with you this week. We have got a lot to talk about because unfortunately I was right last week. We'll pretty much just jump into it. I'll pass it over to Hannah.
Hello, everybody. I am esteemed colleague number two, Hannah. And I have not been able to pick up my jaw from the floor since this episode aired. And also, I said in the last episode that I thought that he was going to get humbled. Not in this way.
Zoinks. Jinky
Like
scoop.
zoinks, Geto! Yeah, this episode was a doozy. It feels like not many action events happened, but everything that happened was impactful. Let me tell you. But going in right, last we saw of Kuroi, she had been kidnapped and taken away. Oh no! Fortunately, that didn't last very long. Tell me how the quick resolution of this conflict made you feel, and the manner in which Gojo approached this conflict made you feel.
We literally were just talking about how I was like, I don't think she's gonna make it out of this alive, and we didn't even see the rescue. It was just like they talked about it, and then she was rescued, and I was like, cool. I I understand why you guys asked me that question. I feel like you're playing with me now because I'm the only non-manga reader here, so I'm seriously considering picking it up at this point, but I probably won't. Anyway, I think Gojo approached it the way he always does. He was calm and collected and cool, and the way he explained they're probably gonna say that they're gonna kill her if you don't give us, oh my gosh, what's her name?
Amane.
Help me out.
Rico?
Rico. Thank you. He was like, they're probably gonna ask for Rico and they're gonna kill her, and if that happens, we'll be fine. We'll take him down. And then they did. I was like, okay, that was easy. But the rest of the episode wasn't so easy, so kind of threw me off.
Oh, Gojo. I love the way that this show subverts the expectations of like everything and that like so usually this would be like a rescue mission in almost any other anime, and nope, it's like we're just gonna fast forward past that, probably because it was so freaking easy for them that it's almost not even worth showing. But while he's calm and cool and collected, he's almost like unserious at this point, I think. He's a dumb teenager still. They're not very old, and so it's like he's still a dumb teenage boy who just happens to be one of the two strongest. And so he's definitely let that get to his head, and obviously we know that some humbling happens in a very harsh way very soon that we'll dive into in a minute, but not at this point. Basically, he's like still able to pull off the mission so seamlessly that we don't even need to see it. And in fact, it is like kind of funny the way that it cuts, because it's like, wait, did I miss something? Or it's like, oh, no, that's just like unimportant apparently.
Yep.
Honestly, the show is. I really like the way that the show diverts from our normal expectations, right? And especially in such a serious episode, and following that, we get a quick flash to see the squad has gone to Okinawa for the typical anime favorite, a beach day, right? What does the beach scene mean to you as a viewer, and how did you think it was going to affect the trajectory of the episode?
I love beach scenes and like beach montages in animes because they're always so cute. I love the like just the quality of like the bright colors and like the change and usually the costume design that we get to see, I think is so much fun. But there's something melancholy about it here, and even without knowing exactly what was going to happen next, it's like we do know that Rico is like on the way now to like face this like assimilation process that she has to undergo with Tengen. So like while it's very fun and cute and like kind of silly and like uh unserious is the word I would use again, it's like we know that there's something dark looming on the horizon here, which makes it a little bit less sweet. But that doesn't mean that I enjoyed it any less while it was still happening. I loved, like, especially Gojo and Rico in the water, like, goofing off. And I loved the switches in their animation between, like, the ridiculous looking faces and then, like, the very serious, like, we're back to him being, like, Mr. Pretty Eyes again. So much fun. You could tell Mappa had a good time with this scene.
Yeah, it was funny. This episode aired the same day that I got to the beach in Black Clover, so I'm just living the anime beach life that almost every anime has. There is one anime that we all know that they have not gone to the beach because they don't get a vacation in that show. Demon Slayer. Anyway, Emily's shaking her head at me. I had to bring it up. But it was just kind of fun to see them goofing off and being teenagers. You know, we talked a little bit in the last episode about the fact that it's such a common anime trope for kids to grow up early and not really have the opportunity to be kids. And I think it kind of showed how much Gojo still has that kid side to him since, you know, at this point he is still technically a kid. So it was fun to just hang out with them. I did feel like something was going to happen. I didn't think that this episode was going to stay in that slice of life feeling. I didn't know where. It still shocked me. But it did make it feel like there was something looming. And then, of course, when they were like having her, she was like in an aquarium or something, the music that was playing, it was just like this piano, which honestly, not to bring up Demon Slayer again, but reminded me of the piano that played in the last episode when Tanjiro was chasing after Hantengu in those final moments, which like makes me feel very like, okay, this is serious. But she was just standing in an aquarium, but it's very ominous. So it really set a tone for something about to happen.
Yeah, and that's what I like to hear, because this show is really going to take you for a wild ride if you're already enjoying this so far. And of course, we hope you, the viewers, also enjoying this, right? And that levity does not last long, as we kind of just discussed, because as Geto confers with Gojo about him being overworked, what does this tell us about the relationship between Gojo and Geto if they are able to see so deeply into each other as so?
They're obviously extremely close, which still gives me questions as to, what is to come for their relationship and why it ends up the way it is in, present day. Because it really seems like Geto not only understands him, but truly, like, deeply cares about him. Because Gojo is just seen by most of these characters as someone who's just kind of strong. He's just really strong, and he can... almost like he's immortal, right? But Geto is showing clearly that he's actually, like, worried about him and telling him, like, you need a rest and that sort of thing. So I think that it gives me more questions than answers as a non-manga reader that is just continuing this theme of what's going to happen, because I truly feel like they're super, super close, even though they bicker a lot. Almost to the point of, I know that this is a common thread or a common thought, but yeah, I ship it, of course.
Oh, I mean, they're in love, right? Like,
Haley, if you're listening, we stand.
But even if I'm gonna be like 100% serious, like, whether that's a headcanon or not, like, on some level, there's a lot of love here, right? Like, they are deeply, deeply in tune with one another, so much so that, like, they refer to themselves as both of them being the strongest. Like, we are the strongest, as in, maybe we wouldn't be if it wasn't both of us combined. And Gojo is, like, so cocky and so strong that anybody who isn't that deeply close and aware of his small shifts in, like, attitude and energy, like, I don't think anyone else would notice that he's starting to get a little bit worn down, because he doesn't really, like, he wouldn't verbalize that, and he wouldn't really show it. And the truth is, he still could probably put up a pretty strong fight against most enemies. So I don't think, like somebody like Rico wouldn't notice that he's getting worn down over the course of these couple of days. Maybe, like, their professor at Jujutsu High, but, like, I think, honestly, Geto might be one of the only people that would be so in tune that he's like, hey, you actually do need to take a break, because I know you, and this is, like, what you need. But likewise, Gojo can probably read Geto pretty similarly. We just haven't seen it yet.
As they say, reading is fundamental. Now, with that, Geto also mentions that he hasn't dropped his curse technique or his technique at all. So I think that alludes to a little bit of something. And we also hear later in the episode that he's referred to as Six Eyes by Fushiguro. So maybe that gives us a little bit more context about what's going on and what specifically that means. Now, we eventually make it back to the safety of Jujutsu High inside the barrier, only to feel the most unsafe we have in the entire arc. Bum bum bum! Mr. Menace Fushiguro has arrived in what some might call a flashy manner. Let's talk about the fight scene that ensues.
So I'm gonna have a lot to say about this fight scene. We might be here for a minute.
Get on the soapbox.
Obviously, some contradicting feelings. Some contradicting feelings because the two hot boys are fighting. But he said, "Step aside, young lad. The men are here to clean up." And he is a big boy. And I love to see him, but man, he really fucks us all up in this scene. Because, I mean, he, like, plunges a sword right through Gojo in, a fraction of a second. And we know, obviously, that Gojo's been worn down a bit, but, like, there really was, like, no time for him to react. And he's supposed to be the strongest, and everything we've seen so far of, like, him and Geto engaging in any kind of combat has proven that, because even earlier in this scene, we didn't even get to see the combat because it was so inconsequential. Whereas, like, here, there's no time for him to react, which shows very quickly how dangerous Toji is going up against him, and how smart Toji is. Even if he kind of acts like a meathead sometimes. I mean, but like, Gojo gets fucked up here, right? Like, this is like, and it's not close. Toji moves so quickly. I think this was something that was embellished from the manga for me, was getting to see Toji's movement and, like, really get a grasp of how fast this guy can move. And his Heavenly Pact, which we'll probably get to in a minute, but getting to see this visually really made him scarier for me. Yeah, things are not going well for Gojo in this scene. One thing, though, that I also am going to add is that all of those people that were online saying that this season looked bad, they're real quiet now. Because, like, for every ounce of show, like, Demon Slayer is beautiful, this was graphic and fast and horrifying, and Mappa crushed it with this scene. It was, like, really grotesque.
Extremely gory. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on this too, because obviously, like, we start off with what we feel like this safety of being at Jujutsu High, and, you know, and it's like instantaneous. And for me, because I didn't know what was coming, like, I saw someone get stabbed, but I didn't know who it was at first. Like, I saw, like, kind of the side. I thought it might have been Kuroi. But then I was like, oh, it's Gojo. Okay. And it looked like it was, like, right through the chest. And I was like, So that was my first, like, moment. And then, you know, he explained something with his cursed energy being able to, like, absorb it or whatnot, that he was fine. After Geto is, again, very clearly showing a lot of worry. And I think something that I noticed that was very poignant to me was when Gojo was, like, telling them to, you know, get Riko out of there into Tengen-sama, is that Geto, like, hesitated. Like, we've seen in the last 2 episodes that, like, when Gojo says something or whatnot, like, they've bickered, but when it comes to fighting, they're, like, always like, okay, go, like, do it, I trust you, whatnot. And he was, like, genuinely, like, not sure about leaving him, which just, like, further proves that, like, they really care about each other. And then the fight that ensued had me absolutely, like, my mind was blown, first of all. Like, the animation was gorgeous. Mappa went off on this. And it was just a beatdown. Like, it was a straight up beatdown. As soon as that sword went through Gojo's neck, I was just sitting there like...
And one thing I'll add real quick is that, like, as beautiful maybe isn't the right word, as haunting as this scene was, Mappa didn't actually even come close to how graphic this was in the manga. he is like sawed in half, and I know they have to like be a little bit more tame because it's broadcast on TV, but like he is like his body is like split in half in the manga, and it's like, and it's how horrifying that we know how strong he is, and it's not close.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, obviously I know he's gonna live. Like, that's it, it's not like oh, well, I guess Gojo's dead, cool, because again, this is in the past. But I genuinely don't know. Like, he took on multiple like fatal wounds, not just like one fatal wound and then a few like, oh, like coupled with other things would kill you. It was like, okay, through the neck, that kills people. Okay, through the chest, that kills people. Okay, through the collarbone, yeah, that kills people, along with everything else. So I was just like,
That kills people, Carl.
I'm just like sitting here, I'm like, he's literally cutting him up. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I have a Gojo roll for Mr. Fushiguro on deck.
Oh my god.
Uh,
It is like brutal.
What the heck, man? That's all I can say is like, what the heck? That's why I was like, I need to run to Barnes and Noble, because I genuinely don't know how he's getting out of this. He has to, but I don't know how.
Yeah, things are not looking good.
I loved this scene specifically for like demonstrating the intelligence of Fushiguro, right? Because he cloaked himself within those bugs, and that's how he cloaked. Like, that's how he got to Gojo. Is like he was able to hide himself, and he knew what he was up against. And like the pretext to this scene, or the context of this scene, is that he let the bounty expire, so that way they finally had like taken a breather. They're like, oh, we're fine now. Like, the bounty's down. And that's when he enacted, like, because he knew exactly what he was going for. He's a mastermind, and it's very interesting to see how that plays out in that moment. And watching Gojo, like,
Yeah.
somewhat scramble, because, like, he blew all the houses apart. He's like, I need to be able to see him, and he created that, like, little dome, and really, that was his isolation that screwed him in the end. It was just a very... I think
No, I was just gonna add, I didn't want to interrupt you, but even crazier, they like mention in this scene, Toji has no like jujutsu sorcerer abilities. He has a heavenly pact, which is something that's like granted usually to like special people that do not have those abilities because they don't, almost like a handicap, I guess, if you will, that grants him this speed. But like he does not have like he is like otherwise like human, and like it enhances some of the stuff that he has, but what he has is inherently human.
also, I think the design of that blade that he uses is so cool. Like, that thing looks badass. All right, well, I think we all have our feelings out about that scene now, and eventually, like, maybe not. I don't, but as Geto and company make a break for it, right? Eventually, they do make it underground and are nearing Tengen-sama himself. Kuroi excuses herself and says that this is as far as she goes. And now, there's not only the declaration of love from Amane herself to Kuroi, but the acknowledgement of Amane's self-interest, as Geto reveals him and Gojo were always going to support Amane if she wanted to assimilate or not. Which caught your eye or heart more?
Which one caught my eye or heart more? I mean, they both did kind of equally. I think that, you know, as she mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Riko was like, I want to save Kuroi because I haven't gone to say goodbye. So we see already, you know, that kind of tough exterior that she's put on, saying like, I'm going to do this, I'm a chosen one, kind of fall away because she's actually fearing that she won't be able to see Kuroi again. So it was really beautiful to have that moment where, you know, she told her that she loved her. But the moment where Geto reveals that they were going to support her even if she didn't want to assimilate, and like we got this moment, or like a flashback moment where they're talking about it and they're like, we'll protect her, you know, and especially Gojo's been like, I can't wait to be rid of the brat, or like, this has been annoying, blah, 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 blah. But it kind of shows that like even he was caring about her and that they truly wanted to protect her and give her that option. And I think that's so important because this is a character who's the chosen one essentially, but being the chosen one has taken away her agency and taken away her ability to really make decisions for herself because her destiny is to assimilate, right? And she even says like, I was born special. I knew I wasn't like them. And now she's having these two teenage boys be like, you have a choice. And it was a really beautiful moment. I'm not going to talk about how that ended because I think that's the next thing we're going to talk about. But it made me tear up a little bit.
Yeah, you said everything really well, Hannah. I mean, both moments are really sweet and they're intentionally like very, very heart-wrenching and yet they are tinged with a sense of melancholy as well because like, and again, even without knowing exactly what happens next, it's like, so if she assimilates, she essentially, like the way that she is, like she dies. If she doesn't assimilate, that could be the end of everything the way that they know it, if there's not an alternative star plasma vessel. So like, if her sacrifice is for the greater good, like, is it worth it? And the answer might be no. At least to these teenage boys, or is that like a very teenage way of looking at things? So it's really hard to say exactly what the right answer would be, but regardless, this is like the end of her state of mind the way it currently exists, because again, either she assimilates and she said her goodbyes, which is always heart-wrenching to watch, or if she turns her back on everything that she has come to expect, then that also changes the trajectory of her life as well. So either way, she's like not leaving this place the same way that she went in. That being said, of the two, I liked the scene with Geto and her, because he's like the more serious of the two boys, and it seems to me like he would be the more like by the book kind of character, and that he would be like, I've got a job to do, let's get it done. So it's nice to see like his soft side come out again that we've already seen in a few of the previous episodes, and we know that he's kind of quiet, but that he's got a good heart.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to watch both these scenes as someone is like actively either choosing to destroy the world or actively like while they save themselves or like give up like what they've known their entire life for some greater good that they don't even experience. It's like a real catch-22 in that moment of like, what do I do? Do I try and take solace in the fact that like my service will do the rest of the world good? Or do I like enjoy what time I have left and, you know, whatever comes, which is definitely difficult. But also I like that Geto and Gojo mentioned how they were like, we might have to fight Tengen-sama at that point. And he was like, well, we're the strongest. And it was so sad. And of course, right, like Kuroi's like, well, I want to see everyone more. I want to spend that time with them. And we come to what feels like should be a happy ending. But they pull that rug real hard, don't they? And Fushiguro with the literal smoking gun in hand. Geto is shook and dazed. What a plot twist, right?
I felt so bad for Hana and all of the anime onlys in this moment, because Mappa really did you dirty with this by bringing that OP in at the end. And we're like, it's gonna end, and it even got me for a minute, because I'm like, maybe we're gonna wait to do this until the next episode, and no, we're not going to wait. This also, I think, translated better in the anime than in the manga because of the soundtrack choice and the animation choice. It's like, this just proves once again, like, nobody is safe in this show that has very much earned its spot among the Dark Three. Nobody is safe, and happy endings might not exist.
What the heck? What have I got myself into? God, I literally jumped. And that happens when, like, any type of, like, bang or something happens in a show or whatnot, whether that's an explosion, a gunshot, you know. I jumped in Demon Slayer when, like, in episode 2 when he was training with the freaking doll, like, there was a noise, and I was like, oh, like, I jump at everything. But this was, like, a jump that was, like, they really did us dirty by starting to play the ED. And usually when like animes play the ED before the credits roll, like it's because just like a sweet moment is happening, or it's like the end of a season, you know. So I'm like, why is it already playing? But I'm like, oh, like a really cute moment is happening. He's holding out his hand, she's crying, like, and you know, And while there's like this ominous feeling of like, okay, if you don't assimilate with him, like what's gonna happen to the world, but it's also like like she's choosing her own path and that's really sweet, and Geto is helping her with that, and then bam, she's done. And that shocked me, but then again, like I keep calling out Geto because at first I was like, wait, is he working with Toji? Because it took him a minute to like go from like that smile to that like shocked face. And I think it's just because of like the slow motion, and I'm like waiting for the moment when it's like, okay, Geto is bad now. Like, but just his reaction to all that, just being like shocked. And then of course Toji shows up and is like, Geto's like, why are you here? And he's like, oh, well, I killed Gojo. There's something about characters when they find out that someone they love died, but they respond very calmly and just choose to fight rather than like freaking out there. And he's just like, okay, then die. And that's the end of the episode. I was like, that's the moment I was like, this is going to be a long season if I keep up this not reading the manga thing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I want to call out the voice acting for Geto, because you mentioned that at the very end where he was like, I think the word was soka, and like the voice acting, the look on his face.
She knew. Yeah.
It was, it gave me a very Giyu vibe of like, I mentioned Giyu? Oh, who am I? Is Hana over here? Listen.
Did you know they have the same voice actor?
Did you say that? Did you tell me that
Did
before?
you know they have the same voice actor?
No, I didn't. Damn.
Yeah, same voice actor.
What can I say?
Fun fact.
I'm lucky, I guess. But yeah, it gave me that vibe of like dead calm, of like being like so focused on one thing. It was wild. And I think realistically, this entire moment is kind of critical to what will come in the next this season, because it's really demonstrating you don't know what's going to happen next if you're in an anime only. Like, this show is going to be a roller coaster for the rest of the season, and you should not get too attached. It gives me very much so Attack on Titan vibes as well, with season 1, people not making it out left and right. I think I gave Hana too much at once. I think I broke our Hana.
Oh no.
Our Hana.
I can see her turning red behind her.
Oh no!
I'm like half lying, half crying. I'm like, what have I done? I need to watch a happy show. Why am I watching this?
Go watch Spy Family.
Please leave in the comments your happy recommendations.
I like Cells at Work, if you ever need a break. It's about the human body. It's really great.
Hey, you know what? I recently just watched Loving Yamada-kun at level 999, and that was the perfect little break of just cute romance that I needed. I think I need to do it again, though. I need to find another cute romance.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, any last thoughts before we hit to favorite moments?
I'm fine.
No, you're not. Don't lie to us.
You probably won't be for long. Sorry. Oh my gosh. I feel like the people who, even the people who do read the manga that are even 100% caught up to like whatever's online, I don't think that even we know what's coming next. Because, yeah, I don't know. Everyone's starting to make some predictions about how they think the end might pan out, but it's like, who knows? Which I really like about this. I think it's really cool that there's like no way to predict what might be happening, and to know that you're going to be correct. It's like, it is not easy to read, and as sad as some of the surprises are, it is pretty cool to get surprised almost every episode or every chapter.
Unfortunately. All right, well, with that being said, I'm going to hop into my favorite moment. This episode, I think my favorite moment was going to be Geto pulling out his like cursed dragon and all of his cursed spirits at once, and he was like, "You're gonna die." He said, "Oh no, not my man, who will be recognized as best friends in the history books."
My favorite moment, I really enjoyed the like peaceful eeriness of just showing Rico in that aquarium with the piano music. I know I called it out earlier, but I think it did such a good job at kind of setting us up for like the second half of the episode being way darker than the first half of the episode. So it just like gave me like vibes, and I love a good soundtrack. So I was just in there, I was like, oh, this is great. And yeah, it just made me feel great, but not really. It was like weird.
Can I just say the whole episode was my favorite moment?
That's cheating, Emily.
On a serious note, I do think that this might be my favorite episode of the show so far.
Same.
Because this is like, obviously we've seen high stakes, but it hasn't necessarily involved some of what we know for sure are our main characters, like in a way where they're actively harmed beyond like Yuji, like eating the first finger and us kind of not knowing what was going to happen to him there. But that was a long time ago, and obviously he's okay for the time being. I'm torn. I'm torn between the two most traumatic moments in the episode because I think like these were both really enhanced by having been animated. As graphic as it was, I was really excited to see how they handled the Gojo and Toji fight. And I think, like I said, that it's been embellished, and it is like one of the gnarliest human on human fight scenes that I've seen in an anime so far. And I know that, like I said, they even had to tone it back a little bit, but that didn't stop it from being grotesque and shocking and scary. But also, like, the really sick minds that played that ending song with Rico interrupted by Rico being shot was also, like, an incredible way to do that. So as dark as they are, I think that those both are probably the moments that are going to sit with me the longest, maybe even from the whole hidden inventory arc. I'll give it to those two.
All right. Sweet. Well, of course, we can't forget this week's Taisho Era secret. And this week's Taisho Era secret is not somewhat of a secret, but Hana actually has a cat. And she has a dog. Now, these two animals are named accordingly to some of her favorite characters. If you didn't know, Hana has a cat named Nezuko. And she has a dog that is named Mika. After who? Well, of course, her favorite character, or one of her favorite characters from Attack on Titan, Mikasa. And yes, we love and endorse the weeb and the otaku that she has become, because we are the same. We tatakae every day. And we thank you.
Nezuko also has a pink collar with a design that looks a lot like her kimono, and Mika has a red collar. If you know, you know.
All right.
And
Well,
Jordan tried to not give her a red collar when she grew out of it, and I said, heck no, we're keeping her with a red collar. And he said, yes, ma'am.
We love an obedient husband.
He didn't actually say that, but he was like, okay, I'll get her a red collar. I'm like, thank you.
They are also both adorable and perfect, in case anyone was wondering.
I agree.
this is accurate information. All right. Well, with that being said, that's all we have for today, folks. So remember to give us a follow on TikTok or Instagram at Hashira Half Hour, and follow us on Twitter at Hashira Half. Don't forget to download the podcast from wherever you are listening from, and let us know if there is ever a question you want answered in the comments. As always, we appreciate you listening to us, and I hope to have you again next week for another awesome episode of the Hidden Inventory arc. And of course, umai.
Umai.
Umai.